Good morning, Igniters. Your broker Bob here. So glad to see everybody join us. We had a class scheduled at 10 o'clock and it's 10 o'clock and we're going to get going. Today we have another great lineup, day 3. We have our fantastic agent, Mike Law. He's in our top 5, if not top 10 so far year to date. 3 years in the business. I'll get to his introduction in a few minutes. But let's do a quick review of yesterday. Yesterday we talked, it was the Coach's Corner with Clarissa, and she discussed about the big why. So I want to open this up to, now you've learned that the big why propels you into the reason why you're doing this each and every day, where you're going to get up and do your activities that will produce results. So open this up. Who slept on that a little bit and realized, okay, I need to have a really big why, or even not a why, big why, but maybe a why. Doesn't have to be big, maybe be a little wise. Maybe I want to buy a new car. Maybe I want to pay my rent. Maybe I just want to be able to sustain my family. So who came up with some whys as to why they're doing real estate and who's willing to share? And of course, I'll take anybody in the classroom today that would love to share. Don't all be shy.
I can share.
Okay, thanks, Sarah.
So I've always, growing up, I always just wanted to help people. And I remember growing up, my mom always said, because she raised me on her own, she was like, it's one of the biggest things that I'm proud of is the fact that I've owned my homes. And I think that's a huge source of pride for a lot of people. So for me to be able to say, not only now do I get to help people, but I'm a newer agent and I just handed my first client the keys to her home on Friday. And it's driving away, she was so happy and she was so proud. So just me driving away from her house, I had just the biggest smile on my face. And that feeling, if I can duplicate that many, many, many more times over the longevity of my career, that would be really wonderful. So that's my why. Just that source of pride for other people and getting to help them have that feeling.
Thanks for sharing that, Sarah. Now keep that feeling, because when you get into the business, there is the monotony of the business where a lot of the escrows, a majority can also have challenges through that. And that's your guys' role as an agent to help navigate through those challenges.
Right.
Always hold on to that feeling and anchor it in as to why you're doing this, especially on the dark days where an escrow has a few challenges.
Thank you.
And remind the client, I'm here for you. I'm here to keep this for you and to make sure that we deliver for you. So great big why. Who else would like to share?
I'll share.
Sure.
Yesterday, I started to realize basically one of the things I've always kind of beat myself down about is that I like to get distracted by a lot of things because I love learning. I'm watching a movie and the guy's doing Tai Chi and I'm like, I want to be able to have time to do that. I love reading and all this stuff, just time for me and learning just different things, worldly things, cultures and everything. And so that's really what mine built into, because it's always been about, the money from real estate and, doing it on my own terms type of stuff. I'm my own boss. But the fact that I was able to realize, much more what that brings me. So my why is to be able to have the self-confidence and the ability to travel and learn the world's knowledge.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I get into that habit too of I want to do everything.
Yes, yeah. I'll be halfway through a book and I'm already on Amazon looking up something that's not related to this book for my next book. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, definitely COVID has given us enough time to be home.
Yes.
One thing I realized with COVID is we always say that we always want more time. Well, we had more time and then sometimes we didn't know what to do with it. All right. Well, thank you, Matthew. Anybody else want to share? One more share.
I can share.
Okay.
I would say my big why is just to be able to, for me and my husband to grow our family. We've not ever felt financially stable enough to, um, try to start having kids and things. So I think that's our big goal, and just to be able to be financially stable enough to start a family.
Good. Do you have a financial plan put in place yet?
No, that would be that would be a good thing to investigate.
So one of the best classes that I took that I was introduced at Keller Williams is Dave Ramsey's
Okay.
course, and we have some instructors that teach it here at Keller Williams.
Mhm.
And it's a really simple program to actually have financial stability once it's followed.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we don't teach it in grammar school that we should about, finances. We should.
Mm. Yeah.
One of the things that Dave teaches is if you start at the age of 18 to 25 or 26, save $2,000 a year. For those amount of years, you'd have enough in retirement. You wouldn't even have to worry about retirement. So it's a real simple strategy. And then of course, a lot of people live with a lot of credit card debt.
Mhm.
And that stops people from really having that financial stability. So I highly recommend Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University,
Okay.
or
Sarah
even
just wrote
Susie
that down.
Orman. Yeah, or even Susie Orman. She has a new book out that's put it all together, which is speaking more to people my age category. As my age category prepares, well, I'm never going to retire. I'm going to take my last breath doing something, but I don't know what that is. It won't be retirement. It'll be fun retirement though.
Yeah.
All right, so we also finished up yesterday. Clarissa went over the daily 10-4. Everybody should be adding 10 contacts in their database. They should be communicating with 10 people each and every day. And the other one was 10 handwritten notes, whether it's a handwritten note. Since we're not doing that, you could even do a digital text or email, just of gratitude. Hey, thinking of you. And then 10 home previews. And of course, it was recommended to go to your caravans, find a caravan in the area that you want to farm or you're more interested in, and start attending those digital caravans so you can see what's on the market. Remember the top 3 things that Brad Inman with Inman News said in order for an agent to succeed moving forward. They need to have 3 things, 3 skills. They have to understand human relationships, so having empathy with people and understanding their needs and wants. You have to have technology down because we're into we basically are in the tech industry now. Remember that. And then the third thing is to understand the market, having market knowledge, because people are going to want to come to you to understand the market. No matter every transaction I do, I'm always asked, Robert, what do you think about this offer? Or what do you think about this purchase? They're always looking to you for guidance, and you need to speak intelligent to that because you're displaying that information to them. Okay. So today's information, what we're going into, we're going to start talking about sellers, winning the sellers by having a valuable listing presentation or even a pre-listing presentation put together. And we have a great agent, one of our great agents with our market center. He's been with us for just about 3 years. Talked to him a little bit last night as we prepared for the meeting today, the class today. And he did really well right off the bat, got his first 3 deals, and then spent about 6 months trying to figure it all out after that, which a lot of us do. I did the exact same thing. I had really great success initially, and then boom, heartache for about 6 months until I attempted to figure out early on in my career. And so we bring these instructors, and he's going to talk about his successes, but I ask him, talk about your failures too. They need to hear about it because it's important you guys understand. You will have a lot of failures on your path to success. And he's definitely a good display of that. He's having one of his best years, even with COVID that's in place. He's been in, I look at that top 10, it used to be the 80-20, now it's the top, to me, 8% that I see are doing. And when you saw Ashley's numbers yesterday for the stats in the market, the MLS, you understand it doesn't take too much to be in the top 5%, 3%, but it's really moving towards that because there's the number she had off was, it's about 20,000 agents in San Diego, not 28, 20,000. There's members in the MLSs, but they don't actively buy and sell. So 20,000 people are your competition. So remember that, okay? So we're gonna move into the structure today. Without further ado, Mr. Mike Law. Mike, how are you today? Thanks for
Good. Thank you, Robert, for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you. So I'm gonna hand it over to you and you're gonna start the class and I'll be here in the background just whenever you need help.
Sounds good. Just let me know when I have control.
I'll always make sure you have control.
It says you've disabled my screen share. So let's see.
Sorry. You're now in control.
Cool. So let me see if you guys can see the PowerPoint. I'm not gonna do too much on the PowerPoint. I'm just gonna use it as a guide, everyone. But there are a lot of new faces on here, and I haven't met all you guys. And good to see a couple of folks that I know, like Junior, Mustafa, Alicia. But I just want to share a little bit about myself. So, like Robert says, I've been an agent for 3 years. My previous background before this was nothing sales related, so I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I knew that when we bought our first home, the experience sucked really badly. So, and I saw everything on Bravo TV, just like you guys, right? You're like, oh my God, it's so glamorous, cashing $100,000 checks. What kind of life could I live with that? So I spent 10 years in corporate finance, working under a CFO for Adidas, for TaylorMade Golf, and for LPL Financial. So 3 big companies, making 6 figures, doing well. Then I had my first daughter. And at that point, I was like, I can't work for someone else. I'm not happy with the type of person I am coming home to my daughter. So I decided to get my real estate license. Very first deal was very easy for me. It was a coworker. She sat right next to me. During our breaks at lunch and 15-minute breaks, we'd go look at properties in PB. And sure enough, we'd close like 2 months later. We found the perfect home. And now she is studying to be an agent and part of our office. Well, I felt great. I felt like I'm on top of the world. So I was like, fantastic. So I was doing that part-time. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to quit my 6-figure job and pursue real estate because it was a piece of cake. So I was trying to figure it out for, God, at least 6-7 months. Just having a daughter, no steady income. My wife was holding it down and something had to change, right? So at that point, I wish I knew about like growth coaching and all that, but I didn't. So I had to just figure it out on my own. And it took 6 months for me to finally leverage one of the Keller Williams training tools, Bold. I don't know if you guys have taken Bold. If you have, raise your hand. But fantastic, fantastic. So Bold is all about mindset, accountability, and holding yourself to your goals, right? Well, that was a triggering point for me to reach out to my sphere. And I reached out to my sphere, just let them know what I was doing. Sure enough, one of them raised their hands. It was horrible. I'm not that type of person. Everyone thinks I'm a extrovert, but I'm really not. I'm actually an introvert. I just put on this, I just suck it up and just go full speed, right? So got my first listing from a sphere call. And that changed everything for me. It was a buy sell. So not only was it just one listing, but I was able to help them purchase up. So altogether it was like $1.5 million. And $1.5 million, 40 some odd $1,000 paycheck for going 6 months of being broke. That helped a lot. But the purpose of that is that's 6 months I've wasted, right? If I had a coach or someone to tell me what I need to be doing, that's checking in on me weekly, like, dude, you're not doing anything. You are just wasting your time. You're just doing open houses with no direction or no goal. It would have changed everything if I had that person talking to my ear, okay? So think about that, 6 months, how much money could I have made over that 6 months that I wasn't doing anything? Easily 10, maybe 10,000 a month, 20,000 a month. So $100,000 gone right there. So that was a stressful time that I understand if you guys are going through it, and help you learn from my mistake to not go through that, the anguish you go through, the drama, the stress you put your family through. So as you can tell, I'm kind of breaking up in my voice because it kind of hit me. Okay. So, but we're talking about listings today, and Clarissa says we're going to talk about winning the listing, providing value with the pre-listing package, and succeed with listing presentation. All right, so let me just get started with here. And again, if you guys have any questions, just let me get the chat going up here too, so I can see that. Well, I guess I can't see that. So if you have a question, just unmute yourself. That'll be a lot better.
Mike, you can open the chat. You just have to be able to maneuver it.
Oh,
But if there's anything in the chat, I'll relay it to you.
perfect. Thank you. And I'm not sharing the right screen now. Sorry. This is difficult, guys. I'm just going to share it like this, okay? All right. Getting your head in the game. So going back to my story of getting my first listing and how it changed everything. And again, I went through it without a coach. I didn't have like a guide of what I should do when I get there, okay? But why we focus on listing is the first one was with my friends. Piece of cake. They let me mumble and jumble through my way. It was like an hour and a half. It was more than, it was just too, it was horrible. I wish I had a camera on it so you guys can learn from that. But I asked you guys, and you know, please chime in. Why do we focus on listings? Like, why is listing so important in this industry?
Because listings bring us more opportunities. When you have a listing and you're out there promoting, let's say we're back to holding open houses and everything, you know, not only do you have marketing material out there, you have your name out there showing that you do sell houses and everything. You're holding open houses, you've got buyers coming in, so you're able to pick up buyers off of that. Whereas when you're running around with a buyer, it's hard to pick up the listings because you're going to the listings that agents already have.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you
Also,
also
right
have
now- Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you also have like a fixed, you've got a spot, you have a home, it's gonna be sold. As long as you do your job right, that's gonna come. With a buyer, they might be interested and ready to go, but finding the house is a whole thing, making sure they're ready is one whole thing, finding the house is a whole thing, and then, you know, getting your offer accepted. So there's a lot more chance of the transaction not passing through when you're going with a buyer as it is with a seller. It's a little bit more of a guaranteed deal.
Mm-hmm.
I think of it.
Well,
Great, Dave.
well, now with today's market, basically practically everything's selling and you're getting multiple offers. So sellers, that's the way to go right now, listings.
Yeah, absolutely. So all correct answers. And Matthew, like you kind of nailed it right off the bat already with the opportunity it brings. So my very first listing, I hung the sign on the wall, and I was totally new to the game, right? So I priced it using comps from, within the last 90 days. Well, over the last couple of years, I think if you use that kind of strategy, and sorry, Alicia or Robert, if I'm like totally off base, but please chime in. But don't take it completely as 100% fact that that's what you should do. So I did it. I priced it. It was in the very beginning, all my deals were like under 500,000. So I priced it at, what was it, like, geez, $399 or something like that for a 2-bedroom townhome in Poway. And I thought, oh man, it's gonna be a stretch to even hit that numbers because the comps all say 370. Sure enough, it was a 1 day of open house when we were allowed to do open house back then. We had 70 people through within, it was just bananas. 70 people through within that first day. Got a cash offer for 480,000, so like almost 90,000 above ask. And that started it all for us. So my big mistake led to some opportunities because sure enough, within that condo townhome complex, word got out. And that's when the sign calls, the neighbors talking about it, the leverage that we talk about, that listings lead to more listings, it definitely happened. So So people do notice when you do something amazing like that and generate the crowd, you don't even have to, you still market yourself, absolutely, but people are going to talk about it and it's up to you to convert them. Cool. Bringing buyers. So this is where I wish I had a little bit more skill back then. I mean, we had 70 people through, of which probably 50 were unrepresented, right? So if there was, if there was a way for me to go back in time, by all means, I'm going to convert a good amount of those 50 leads that came through. But now they're on a drip somewhere deep into the CRM. And then leverage, like we talked about, like Sarah, you had mentioned, like it's going to sell on its own, right? Yeah, absolutely. If you price it right, it's going to sell, depending on the market, depending on the price point. But ultimately, it's a lot less time involved. Sometimes you will get sellers that need a little bit more hand-holding, and you're going to get into that during your pre-listing package and your listing presentation. Cool. Any questions there, guys? No? All right. So my very first listing appointment, let me go to the next page. So we focus on why we focus on listings. We've talked about it. Make it happen, working with pre-qualifying the seller. So my very first listing appointment that wasn't with a friend was from that same townhome complex. His name was Tony Luck, and I remember it to this day. He called me and just said, "I want you to sell my house because I saw what you did with my neighbors. Just do it." I was like, okay, cool. I don't know. I'm kind of new. This would be my first cold lead, right? I've never worked with anyone I didn't know. So I just downloaded whatever I could download off KW Connect and said, all right, I'll see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Showed up at his door at 2 o'clock, said, "Hey, Tony, it's 2 o'clock. We had an appointment." And I came in, and that's it. I sat down. I asked, can I sit down at the kitchen table? Can I get a glass of water? And why am I here today? Right? I asked him, why am I here today? And then we went through basically the entire listing presentation. And it's like, God, it's long. It's like, if you guys printed it from the Ignite material, it's long. That's what I brought with me. Okay. So I went through that whole listing presentation for easily over an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And about an hour into it, I asked Tony, I was like, do you have any questions? You know, because he's just kind of quiet as I'm going through it, figuring out what I should say. And he said, "No, but this is getting long. I'm getting tired. Let's just sign the listing agreement and be done with it." So this is where I could have saved a lot of time. And honestly, if this was any other person, I probably would have lost the listing because I was talking so much and it took so much of his time that he was probably thinking, if it takes him this long to go through a presentation, how long is it going to take for him to sell my house? Right? Realistically. So luckily, he was just very straightforward like that. Just said, just tell me where to sign because all I care about is you selling it for this amount of money. And if you could do it, I don't care how you do it, what you say, just do it. I love people like that, by the way. Those are your high Ds. And I've quickly learned to become a high D. So, yeah. So that's what happened there. So if we had a pre-listing package, it would have saved a lot of time. So let me get into that. Have you guys ever used a pre-listing package or know what it is? Nope.
No, it is. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So a pre-listing package is basically you once you get them on the phone, you have that listing appointment set, right? Assuming your guys are making your calls, and I hope you are, and we'll talk about how you find sellers too. But once you have them booked, you have a ton of questions to vet them to see if it's even worth your time to come out. And as a new agent, I'll just be very honest. Like if you don't have an appointment, regardless if they're kind of like, yeah, I'm thinking about selling my home if I find the right one. I'm sure you kind of hear that from time to time. And you think they're wishy-washy, I would still go on the appointment. I would still go create rapport. It's a chance to learn and fail forward. Not saying you're going to fail, but at least if you do, you'll fail forward. Okay. So the pre-listing package helps you answer, like, ask some questions of like, why are you selling? What do you need to net? Where are you going? What do you expect? Right. So this is all in, gosh, there's a checklist on here. Yeah, page 20 of your manual. But, you know, it's just some questions. But the most important part is understanding their goals. Okay. Understanding their goals up front, understanding what experiences they've had before, because this may not be their first time selling a home. Understand their expectations before, experiences, and that way when you show up at the listing appointment, guess what? You're not going to be walking into a situation where you don't know what the answer is. Right? So that is the key part to the pre-listing package, is getting those questions up front so you are not caught off guard later. In addition to that, in today's world, everyone has like Zillow, Redfin, Yelp, Realtor.com, Google, Facebook. Like they're going to search you. They will look for you, especially a seller. And they want to see, you know, what you have done, testimonials. So if you guys don't have that already, get on it, right? Even if your Yelp page has no reviews, still create one, because it's better than someone Googling you to not find anything. Okay.
So, hey, Mike, I have a question about that. I was reading that the other day on, it was page 7. It said like, if you don't have testimonials, ask marketing center leaders and fellow agents for testimonials. So like, what am I asking for? Am I asking like you, for example, would I be asking you to like kind of imply that I sold your house, or just, I mean, like, how would that work?
It's not about just selling a house, right? It's about the person you're working with. You got to be someone's relatable, trustworthy, has authenticity, right? Like I get like when people work with me, they always say you're very genuine. I always get that. Like I'm very authentic and genuine. And when we work together, if you ever have questions, you come to me. I hope you feel that way too. But go out to your allied resources, your vendors, your friends, your family, you know, whoever it could be. And if you haven't done a transaction together, I'm sure you've done something together. You help them in some shape or form, and they could vouch for your character, you know, and that's a start. Like I didn't have a review to start with. So my escrow partner, Madison from Foundation Escrow, like she was one of the first persons to write me a review, and it was on Google. I remember that, you know, they came in, they said, Mike, you don't have any online presence. If I search for you, all we get is Mike from Los Angeles. And that's it, because of my last name. Now, if you do a Mike Law Realtor search, it's different. And it's only been like, you know, less than 3 years since I've been in the business. So it's just important to just get it started and remember to keep on feeding it. Okay, pictures, testimonials, anything that you can.
What about on our listing guides? Like I have a listing guide, but I don't have any testimonials on it. So would it be, you know, and I've read other listing guides where, you know, this person was great, took care of us completely in selling our home or whatever. So what would I be asking? Let's pretend that you and I know each other better, okay? And I asked you for a testimonial to put on my listing guide or something like that. What would I really be asking you for?
Yeah, you would be asking me for a testimonial on, let's say I didn't sell your home, right? But we've had conversations about selling my home.
Let's say you're you and I'm me, and you and I, we just knew each other from the office.
Okay. I'd be like, hey, Dave.
What would I ask you for?
Yeah, I was like, hey, Dave, would you mind writing me a testimonial? Remember that time? Like maybe you can mention the time I've helped you comp out this property, my expertise in that neighborhood. Would you mind sharing that on my Facebook profile? Right? There's so many different ways you could take real estate. So, you know, we wear so many different hats, right? From from knowing houses, to knowing construction, to knowing neighborhoods, to knowing the market, to knowing financing. It's like we wear a lot of hats. How many testimonials can you get out of that? How many different subjects can you get out of that? Right? You just got to be creative at first. But once you have one, it just keeps going. Does that help, Dave?
Sure. I'm just not sure, like if I haven't comped somebody, I'm thinking like I could ask my coach, I could ask colleagues, but I'm not sure. More like I can ask, hey, can you write me a testimonial? But I think I need to give a little bit more parameters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, what am I asking? Let's say they don't know me in that, just like people here, people that I know. What would I ask them?
Oh, anyone else want to chime in to Dave's answer or question? I'm sure we all got a lot of thoughts to help him out there.
For like testimonials, I think it's like LinkedIn when somebody like gives you like a comment about yourself, like how you are professionally and how you are as a worker, as a friend, as a colleague. That's part of like a testimonial for yourself. So I think that would help too, to create that impact with other with future clients, to know like who you are as a person. And yeah.
And Dave, you can probably use yours coming from your teaching background too. You know, I mean, you can ask them, they can speak on your teaching, but basically just have them give testimonial about you as who you are as a professional. You know, be like, oh, Dave is always amazing. He's on time. He's so professional and he's always answering all of my questions. You know, even though it's just from your teaching experience, when somebody who's looking at your real estate, they're like, oh, good, he's professional, on time, and answers questions. Love it.
Thank you, Matthew.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. All right. So, I mean, that's just a small portion of the pre-listing package, right? So in there, you're gonna, I'd say leverage the one that you have in your manual, modify it, update it so it looks like it's contemporary in today's world, okay, in terms of the layout, but essentially keep to the same message, right? Which is, it's all about the customer, really understanding them that we are a service-based business, right? And we're essentially interviewing for the job. They're hiring us. So it's up to us to make sure that they're the very first message should be in your pre-listing package. Okay. And then it kind of sets next section, it sets expectations on what do we have to do to get ready to list your home, which I think Bridget is going to cover over in one of the next Ignite classes, from pricing it through the MLS. Okay. Keep in mind that MLS is only a certain population of transactions, and you don't want to be caught off guard, because these neighbors, they know everything what's going on the street, on the block. Okay. And you don't want to be caught off guard, like the next door neighbor sold their home, but it wasn't listed. They know that, but you don't want to walk into that situation. So run your comps, reach out to your title reps. If you don't have a title officer or a title rep, more than happy to refer a few to you, and ask them to send you all the sales within the last, some look at 90, I look at almost 6 months. Okay. For that neighborhood. That way you get everything, you don't miss anything. Okay. So you do your comps based on that historical data. In today's market, where things are moving so fast and things are going, gosh, like we came from a showing where it was a $900,000 listing. I'm representing the buyer, and I shit you not, sorry for my language. It went for $1.15 million. It's like $250,000 over ask, 25% over ask, in a neighborhood I didn't think that would ever eclipse that number. So where I'm going with that is the historical data is not going to tell you that, right? And if you just comp it that way, it could work. In this market, people are aggressive, but I'd also share what active listings are out there. I think there's a lot more weight today to look at your competition, right? If you're looking in, Carlsbad, let's say, let's take a look, and you're walking to a home, you think it's historical comps is priced at 1.2. Look at what's out there for 1.2, right? Compare what's the activity looking like currently at 1.2 million for all those homes, and how do you stack against it? Look at days on market and things like that. So that's my tip, is to price it competitive to the actives and look at what's going on. Okay. Any questions there, guys? Yeah.
Mike,
Yes.
I'll just pipe in a little bit too. I always used to go by, pricing a home is more of a marketing technique rather than a determination of value.
Mm-hmm.
So figure out how aggressive the seller wants to be. If they want to be super aggressive and get a lot of eyes on it, then you price it at a price that will cause the most eyes to look at it. So if it's lower priced and it seems to be a good value and it's in great condition compared to comps, then you can go ahead and price it that way and be real aggressive and expect on that one that you looked at and that was at 9 and went to 1 point. Are you saying that the comps in the neighborhood were at that amount?
Yeah, the comps in the neighborhood supported like an unremodeled home, exact same floor plan was like 875 or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just one of those markets right now, right?
And then have you ever priced a home prior to this type of market? Because right now you just put a dartboard and go, okay, yeah, we'll go there. But previously, have you ever priced a home where it was kind of overpriced and it kind of sat?
Man, so the one, all my previous listings before COVID sold really, really fast.
Okay, and you priced right. Your price.
Yeah, I priced them right. I use the historical comps. I show them everything, and typically I let them make the decision. I'll tell them what my recommendation is. Like, here's a number, but ultimately it's your number. How do you want us to proceed?
That's an important point right there. You guys let them make the decision, because if it's a bad decision and you made it, then they point the finger at you. But if you show them the numbers and say, okay, how do you want to price? And you look at the pricing triangle in your pre-listing packet. The pricing triangle says aggressive, medium, not aggressive. And then they pick where they want to sit. And then if they get lots of eyes but no offers, then you know that it's overpriced. We used to go by the 10-10-10 rule. 10 days, 10 showings, no offers, reduced 10%. So 10 days, 10 showings, no offers, reduced by 10%. Now, if you get 10 days, 10 showings, and the showings are repeat showings, in other words, and this is not a COVID market, this is a normal market. But the buyers that have the original 10 came back and saw it twice, what they're doing, and they didn't make an offer, they're comparing this home to another home. So in other words, in a normal market where they can go out and have their time in luxury, they could do that. But so when you price, and if it's not sold within the first 21 days or any offers, it's way out of price, and the market has reacted, and then you've got to speak price reduction. And a price reduction is not $1,000 or $5,000. A price reduction is 10% possibly of the purchase price, because the longer a home sits on the market, the more the market will say, what's wrong with it? And if you have a buyer looking at a listing, so you got to put them in the eyes of a buyer. And if they put themselves in the eyes of the buyer and they say, hey, if you see a home sitting on the market for 60 days, what's your initial impression? Well, something's got to be wrong with it. Yep. And we don't want that to happen to your listing as well, too. Otherwise, you'll probably get less than we could have had we had more eyes on it. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, no. And to piggyback on that, honestly, it's way easier to have that discussion about pricing it low and pricing it competitively up front than talk about price reductions down the road. Okay. Because they
never use the word price reduction.
Price, like, not to my clients, not to my clients.
Yeah, it's like nails on a chalkboard. You put Position the home to price in the current market. Position it to sell.
What new price would you like to put on there now based on what's going on? Okay. Yeah, it's way harder to have that conversation. I mean, the very first listing I had to do a price reduction on was in University City. And we priced it using the comps of like just across the street and totally supported it. They made the decision. I agreed with it. It was a little high, but nonetheless, I knew the inventory was really tight. COVID hits, and then sure enough, the luxury market is not what it is, right? That was the most stressful relationship I've ever had in real estate. And I looped in Robert on this one too.
It was stressful for both of us.
Yeah. We lowered, yeah. So first of all, it was really hard. We lowered the price, got an offer accepted, and then the buyer still backed out because of COVID. And it was just a nightmare. This all could have been avoided if we just priced it 5%. Yeah, 5% below ask, below what we intended to do. And trust me, it would have sold. So unfortunately, I rented it out and we didn't sell it. Yeah. So pre-listing package, anything else I want to talk about that before we move to the listing package? Today's world. So
Hold on. So when you
yeah.
say pre-listing package, are you talking about like your listing guide?
You can make it what you want to make it. For me, it's pretty much a condensed version of my listing presentation. It has all the fluff. You guys still there?
Yeah, we love getting your baby.
Baby okay? Are they okay?
Yuri came through the office and stepped on the Ethernet cable, and there goes my entire setup. All right, can you guys hear me though?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna continue as is, and just let me know if we have any tech issues. So where was I going? Oh, what my pre-listing package looks like. So it's really the same questions as you see in here, the checklist, the questions, expectations, timelines, right? About me, like information about me and my family, my background, why I'm in real estate, and past successful deals I want to highlight. You know, like for me, when they see my listing package, I want them to know that this is the type of design and messaging, that branding that they're bringing on, right? So if I give them a piece of paper that's just white and red, it's gonna sit on the bottom, because they're more than likely going to interview at least one other agent. It's gonna sit on the bottom, you know. But if it's part of the new stuff that you see on command, right, using the designs tab, that stuff pops and it really catches their eyes, and it's helped a lot for me. So I would print that out, typically deliver it to them right after the phone call, like that day. That, like, once we get off the phone, yeah, we had an appointment set up, fantastic, I'm going to go ahead and have something dropped off at your place. Go ahead and take a look at it, fill it out, and then I'll see you so and so. Just have that ready for me.
You do that now, even in COVID, you go to their house.
This is where it's important to ask plenty of questions and understand and know your client. Because if they are not comfortable amongst this COVID environment, then you're going to do it via PDF or DocuSign. Okay. But if they are comfortable, some people are old school. Like I have an elderly seller right now in Bay Park. I asked them, do you feel comfortable with me coming over? We hopped on a Zoom call and said, yeah, we'd rather prefer you do it in person. So that's when I dropped off the pre-listing package in person, did the listing presentation in person. So it's really important to just know who your clients are and what's important to them. Like these clients need hand holding. My other sellers, like, everything's digital, like everything. Okay. So from a digital world, really easy, just PDF it, send it over. Any questions that you have, ask them if they're comfortable filling out documents electronically, or would you like to make it easy for them and send them a DocuSign? it's actually really good to get them on DocuSign early, guys, because you want them to start being comfortable signing documents using that platform with you. And it makes everything that relationship bond a little bit stronger. Okay. Anything to add there, Robert?
No, it's all good.
Okay. So yeah, so that's the digital piece to it. With those, my first digital listing, I'm gonna call it digital. It's funny. I met that. It's a short story. I'm going off on a tangent. I forgot it was it. Someone mentioned like you don't really run into listings when you work with buyers. Well, this kind of changes everything. So I'm showing in downtown at the Mark, luxury building in East Village to my clients, and I show them a property, and we come out of the lobby, and I tell my clients like, hey, this is a horrible place. This is not the right floor plan for you guys. If you guys are trying to like turn this into a rental property like 2 years from now, the rents don't support it. I don't like it for you. Let's go find something else, right? So, my clients, my buyers love working with me because I'll tell them that stuff right up front and not make a sale. Okay. Well, fast forward 2 weeks later, I get a call from some number in New York. I'm like, what the heck is this? And here's another thing for all you agents: pick up your phone. You never know who's calling you, and they might not give you another call, and if you call back, they might not pick up. So always answer your phone. I answered my phone. Some lady calls me and says, hey, did you show my house at the Mark 2 weeks ago? I was like, oh crap, what did I do? Did I leave the door open? And she's like, you don't know me, but I was in the lobby listening to you, and I'm the owner of the property. I was like, oh crap. Right? I was like, oh my God. I mean, yeah, okay, all right, whatever. I'm just gonna listen to it. It's not like she could physically abuse me, right? And she's like, you know what? I heard what you said about my unit. And as you know, my listing is no longer, it's expired. It's expired. We're no longer working at other agent. And I really like how straightforward you were with your client and how you spoke. Very direct. Would you be interested in interviewing to list my property? That I just talked mad crap about, right? So she gave me that call because they're elderly. They felt more comfortable doing it in downtown. They felt more comfortable doing everything virtually. Sent them the PDF pre-listing package, held the listing appointment virtually, and sure enough, signed. We agreed to lower the price. It's always better to be a second or third agent sometimes, because you know what the previous agent failed on, and you can fix all of that. And yeah, we sold, they were on the market for like 4 months. We sold it in a week. So you can run into listings out in the field. I think the key thing of it all is not because I badmouth or anyone, but it's just to be out. Be out at these properties. Even if you're not doing anything, go preview them, because you never know, like a neighbor is going to think, oh, are you a real estate agent? Are you previewing this home? Are you looking at it? I'm thinking about selling mine next door. Because, although we preach like, hey, go door knock the 10 doors to the left, toward 10 doors to the right, 20 doors across the street, realistically, a lot more, 90 some odd % of the agents do not do that. Let's think about that, right? So just being out and about, dress as a realtor, feel like a realtor, be out there, present yourself as a realtor. You're going to run into these situations. Okay. Any questions there? No. All right. Cool. Well, I think we're scheduled to take a break at 11. You want to wait till 11, or should we just dive into the listing appointment?
Why don't we take a little break? How long do you have scheduled for the listing appointment?
About 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
Okay. So why don't we take a little break? We'll give them actually you all get until Come back at about 10:58. So you'll get an 8-minute break. Okay, guys?
Mhm.
And we'll get back and we'll come into getting into the appointment.
There's a soul here in the floor. I need to let it go. Shake it off, stop thinking about you. Feel the beat of the drum, try to forget what you've done. Good-hearted, this is a battle that you won. I've been broken down with a broken heart, but I'm stronger. This is a woman's world. This is a woman's world, and I'm stronger, strong enough to rise above. This is a woman's world. This is a woman's world. Love hurts, and your lies they cut me. And now your words don't mean a thing. I don't give a damn if you ever love me. It don't matter, I'm moving on. Gonna lose myself in the beat of the drum. 'Cause honey, this is a battle to have won. Women in the world stand up, come together now. This is a woman's world. Everybody in the top stand up, come together now. This is a woman's world. All the women in the world stand up, come together now. This is a woman's world. Everybody in the class stand up, come together now. This is a woman's world. Tell the truth. This is a woman's world. Tell the truth. This is a woman's world, and I'm stronger, strong enough to rise above. This is a woman's world. This is a woman's world. Tell the truth. This is a woman's world. Tell the truth. This is a woman's world, and I'm stronger, strong enough to rise above. This is a woman's world. This is a woman's world. Boy, if you want my heart, you gotta take it like a man. Fight for us. You gotta show me that you can. They say it's better to love and to lose it all. I didn't learn how to fly without a heavy fall. I went from A to Z, blew off reality. So if my love is a game, then you should lose. You take it all and leave it. You take the right to figure But if you want, so
All right, welcome back, everybody. So Mike went over a lot of great things this morning about working with sellers. He shared his experiences, the good, the bad, the ugly. He also shared a few of the scripts, shared his pricing. What were some of the things that stood out for you guys? Let me get about 3 different things that you learned this morning from people.
I have one.
Okay.
I think it's kind of an interesting anomaly for me to, sorry, there you go, to hear his story about like the difference between pricing it right and maybe a little bit under market value to attract that interest and then drive the price up. Whereas even though he priced it a little bit, even he said, what, 5% above, and then it just sat and it sat. And so it's like, even though these homes are likely to sell for above with a bidding war, if you don't price it to attract that attention of the bidding war, it's a world of difference. And I think that was very eye-opening for me. And I don't know if just maybe because it was before COVID, the market was a bit different, but I think that was something that's very crazy of like, no, it likely would have sold for that price, but because you started there and you didn't start lower to drive the price up, you didn't create that competition. So that was a really good like learning lesson for me.
Yeah, it's like the auction effect. If you go to an auction and there's a piece of art that everybody wants, you know, that price of that art is going to go up because everybody's bidding on it. But if there's only one person that comes to the auction, they're not going to bid against themselves. So that's a scenario you guys can use when you're talking about, you know, that pricing technique. It's just more of a strategy than a determination of value. We want to strategize to get a lot of eyes on it. Great call out, Sarah. Anybody else?
I've got something. I really appreciated what you said, Broker Bob, about asking how the client wants to price something. If they want to go aggressively, if they want to go moderate, not aggressive at all, because then you're saving yourself kind of in the end. If it doesn't work out, you're kind of, you know, they can't just point fingers at you. Yeah, so I appreciated that.
Yeah, you just lay out the strategy, let them determine. And one of the things that I learned very early on from a great mentor of mine was especially with the house, if you go up to a house and you see, you drive up, back in the days when you drive up to the house before the appointment or whatever, and the house is pretty meticulous and it's well groomed, taken care of, they have it, you know, it looks, in other words, showroom ready. They've learned that that seller was very motivated and motivated also to do the right thing. And so when it came to the pricing presentation, it wasn't that difficult. And that seller wasn't going to also hammer you for commissions. But if you drive up to the house and it's not well kept and it's kind of messy and sloppy, that's typically the seller that's not going to price right and want you to do it for less than what your normal standard rate is. So, and then that's good. Okay, anything else? One more.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Still a little confused with the process, the way it goes these days with the COVID. Before, you will have somebody that says, yes, I want to sell my house. You make an appointment, you go in, you do all this presentation talk, giving comps, et cetera, take a look at the house, do a visual inspection, sign the listing, out the door. How's that done today? I'm on the phone, somebody says, Robert, I'd like to sell my house. What's my next step? Am I going into digital mode? Am I, okay, let me send you all this stuff first, or I keep on the conversation? Do we do a visual inspection before, after the sign up? Mike was talking about some people, they're comfortable with you coming over. I guess that's the easiest. Or maybe the easiest is the one that doesn't want to meet with you, just says, send me the stuff. So I don't know. Can you guys?
I'll let Mike address that because he did address that.
Yeah, so I do it both ways, and you know, depending on the seller. But let's say they're not comfortable with you coming over, right? Like my downtown listing. I went through it briefly with my buyer, but I had the seller, you still want to give the seller a say, a voice, you know, control. This is their home. They know it best. So what I did before we signed the listing agreement is I had them like flip their phone around on Zoom and then walk around the house and show me the property. And then that way I asked them like, fantastic. Okay, I see you did appliances. When did you do that? You know, I asked them the right questions that I could market. It looks like you changed the flooring. When did you change the flooring? Right? As she's walking through it, she's able to point out things and help answer my questions and point out things and let me know some of the cool things that they did. Because trust me, sellers love talking about all their upgrades, even if it's like a towel rack, you know? Go ahead, Rob.
Mike, if I may, I want to go a little step.
Okay, cool. Robert, I wanted an aha rather than questions right now. So if we can just get the ahas and then save the questions for the next part of the class. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into the next part of the class and we'll address that question too. We want to take care of that. And also, we talked also, Mike said earlier on about social media. The sellers are going to look at you and they're going to hunt you down on all those other social media apps. So what they see out there is where they're figuring out you as you are. And I got a text from Eric Harris and Paul during the break. Eric's going to teach you all how to maximize Friendster, and Paul's going to teach you all how to upgrade your MySpace page to maximize your social media input for maximum exposure in this market. All right, without further ado, back to you, Mike.
I might be dating myself, but we had AOL chat rooms back in the day. That's how, yes, Robert. Yes, my fellow Zenanial. Yeah, I think it's Zenanial or whatever it's called. But before I get into a listing appointment, I had a couple of things I wanted to talk about real quick. I thought it was important to share with you. And it's still something that I work on today. So anytime I'm not carrying a listing, it's a big deal to me, right? I read someone had similar challenges where you haven't had a closing in a while. So this is what it happened to me. Happened to me like, was it beginning of last year? I had no deals for like 3 months or something like that. And it was scaring me. Even though I capped and everything, it's still 3 months with no income scared me. So what I did to get listings, to earn listings, not get, earn. I called expireds and Fsbos. Okay. Like, none of my friends were selling. I talked to them all. I even asked if their family is selling, right? And no one was selling. So I did, my very first call was a Fsbo call. And it was in the middle of a classroom. And I was like sitting in the middle of a classroom. I was like, I'm just gonna make this call, F it. What's the worst that could happen? Got him on the line, sure enough, booked the appointment. The rest is history, right? And then from then on, I just kept on dialing Fsbo expireds. You know, no matter how horrible I thought it would be in my head, it was never that bad doing it on live. Okay. So it's just something that for me, I had to just overcome mentally. Like the fear of picking up the phone was a lot worse than actually being on the phone. Okay. So if you don't have a listing and you're wondering what's the easiest way to get a listing, for sure, Fsbos and expireds. Take it from me. I've done it. Okay. Most of my friends live at home with their parents and they're like 30s and 40s. So they don't have homes to sell. Okay. So that's what I did. So, you know, last year, I'd say half my listings were Fsbos and expireds. Right. And this year I had four expireds this year. No Fsbos, didn't call them. If I don't call them, I don't get them. Right. But they're there, guys. And you don't have, I'm not the best script man ever. I'm not Steven Jack. I used to attend his morning sessions, but you know, personal situations doesn't allow me to do that right now. But I'm horrible at scripts and I still converted them. Okay. It's just a matter of doing it, right? They just need to hear someone and get that idea in their mind. And it's your responsibility to ask for that appointment, whether it's in person or virtually, whatever it is, set the appointment. Okay. Once you set the appointment, believe it or not, most of them only interview one agent. So if you're there, it's yours to lose. Okay. Keep that in mind. And the others will interview too. Okay. So
I heard that most sellers like interview like 2 or 3 people. So is this?
Hey, it depends who you're asking to source. This is from my experience of dialing Fsbos and expireds.
Oh, from Fsbos and expireds. Got it.
Yeah.
But the rest of the field is more, if you're not
if it's a sphere, if it's someone I know or through a referral, more times than not, I'm the only agent, right? And if I don't convert them or ask to close or don't wow them in that first meeting or phone call, then off to the next. But usually, through a referral through sphere, you're the only one, typically. Okay, so that's why the listing presentation is really, really important to keep it short, brief, and very direct. Okay, so in here, the listing presentation in your materials, it's 42 pages. How long do you think you should really spend talking to at the appointment, talking to your client?
Us talking or them answering questions?
Both. Conversational. How long should that appointment be?
Oh, like 20, 30 minutes?
Paul, you said 5?
I said 30 to 45 minutes.
I thought you said 5. I was like, you are a closer, my friend.
I wish it was 5 minutes.
You will run into the situations where it's like 5-10 minutes. You will run into it the more you do it. And it comes down to how well you set them up with the pre-listing package and your initial phone calls. You don't want honestly, their bandwidth when you're there talking about it is really 30 minutes, right? If you're the only one, more likely than not, the more you talk, the more likely you're talking yourself out of it, if that makes any sense. Okay, so yeah, there's 42 pages in here, but what I bring to my listing appointment is really, I think, like 20 pages, of which 4 of them are comps, right? How it worked for me is I show up, and this is like a Diana Kokoska thing. Every single time, it's always 1 or 3 o'clock, my listing appointments. and I'll knock on the door. Hey, seller, it's 1 o'clock. We have an appointment at 1 o'clock. Thank you for inviting me over. Can I come in? Right. So it's always just that key to anchor that, hey, I'm on time, unlike most other agents who are late. Okay. Once I come in, they'll want to show you the home, you know. And again, this is going back to pre-COVID. They'll want to show you the home. I asked them, hey, can we go sit down at the kitchen table? Let me get my stuff here. Please go ahead and, you know, answer some of these questions that I have for you. I'll go ahead and take a look at the house. That way I can see it through the buyer's eyes. Okay. The key thing here, like, is not really seeing it through the buyer's eyes, is for them to get anchored down. I don't want them to show me the home, because even if it's a 500 square foot condo, it'll take them 30 minutes to show me the home. And that, I'm in and out in 30. That's my goal, in and out in 30. And I don't want to spend 30 minutes looking at the house. I've already seen it. Okay. You've seen enough homes. You know what to expect. So I come back, compliment them, and go right into why I'm there today. Right. And well, I set the expectation. Again, it goes back to a bold script, but I'm here, you know, today. The goal is you're going to hire me. You're going to decide to not hire me, which is not a great thing, or I decide not to take this listing. And that's the key part, because a lot of times I ask, well, what do you mean you won't take this listing? Right. And I'll share with them like, hey, you know, it depends on what your goals are. But if, you know, a lot of my clients would, you know, I do a lot for my clients in terms of advertising, ad spend, photography, video, staging. I do a lot. And it wouldn't make sense for me to invest that type of time and money into something that's priced not to sell. So it sets that expectation that, you know, I have a voice too. It's not just them, right? Because when you do take on a listing, you do have money. You have to put up money for it, right? Like I spend probably more than you should, you know, to get homes ready, but it's more than $1,000, right? So I set that expectation up front. So once we sit down, we go over those questions. Why am I here? What their goals are, and what's important to them. Again, and you already have these based on the pre-listing package. They've already sent it to you. You already know the answers, right? You're there to knock it out. Just recap why you're there, why they chose you to be there. Remember that. They chose you to be there, okay? From there on, I spend a majority of the time showing them 3 to 4 comps. Okay, and this is going back to what Robert said earlier, and the key is to have them make that decision on where to price their home. Okay, so fantastic, we're here because X, Y, and Z, you want to move closer to the beach. Cliche, right? We want to move closer to the beach, so we're going to sell your home out here in La Mesa. Great. Here are a couple of comps I put together. So you don't want to share this up front in your pre-listing package. You got to come in with something of value, right? So share these properties that you think are a best fit. Now, the next key thing to ask yourself first is, have you been to these properties? Have you actually been inside? Usually, no. I mean, unless you're like just farming that one neighborhood and you've been in every single home, but usually no. For me, it's not. So you ask them that question. Have you been in any of these homes? Right? Because you don't want to be caught off guard of the information that they have versus what you could pull off from public information. Okay. From then on, we talk about where do you think you should price your home? Right. And you could easily kind of the 4, one's usually close to where it should be priced. And the way you position it, the way you outline it, they're going to gravitate towards it. And based on their goal, you know, we'll have that price discussion. Any questions there, Robert? Any comments?
That I'm seeing.
Okay.
Just my comment of show your face in class. if you're in the class. We want to see your face. Turn on your
I have a
video.
quick question.
Go ahead.
So if you can just lay out like 1, 2, 3, the most important questions really quick that maybe we could write down.
Important questions and looking at the comps or when I'm
just
there.
Like that beginning
Yeah.
part of the listing or the
Yeah.
appointment.
So I come off with first, like, are you going to hire? You're going to decide if you're going to hire me. Number 2, you're not going to decide to hire me, which won't be a good thing. Or number 3, I'll choose not to take this listing. Okay. And then that's one piece of it, right? And then the other pieces are the normal questions that you're going to ask. Why are we're moving again because of why? Right? Getting down to their motivation. You want to anchor down that motivation just in case there's any reservations. So you can remind them, right? Why you're there. You're not there for yourself. You're there to help them get to their goal. You're the best person to do it. Okay. So we've talked about laying down the comps, having them decide what a good listing price is. Typically, once we've had that conversation of, okay, fantastic. We've agreed on a price. We've agreed that, and you want to isolate, like, okay, we've agreed on a price. Is there anything else that we need to discuss or that would hinder you from signing today? You got to always think about asking for the signature, like signing the listing agreement. The more you talk, the less chances you are going to have of asking that question. So ask it here and there in different ways through your listing presentation. Because like Paul said, it could only be 5 minutes. If you just walked in and saying, you're going to hire me or you're not going to hire me, blah, blah, blah. Fantastic. Are you ready to sign? Someone will say, yeah, I'm ready to sign. And you're in and out in 5 minutes, right? Some of them will be like, well, I want to hear what you have to say. Okay, fantastic. That's why I'm here, right? So you got to keep on asking for the close, okay? And do it differently. Are you ready to sign? Are you ready to sign? Are you ready to sign? I'm joking about it, but you'd be surprised what you hear, okay? So yeah, checking in, asking to sign. And usually they'll say, okay, fantastic, but we haven't talked about commission. It's always going to come up. Always. Robert, do we have a class about that? Or should I just kind of talk about it?
I'm sorry, which part?
Commission, when you're at the listing appointment.
Oh, no, you can talk about it. Definitely.
Okay. Be prepared. Don't think you're going to get every listing at 3%. Okay. Or 3 or 6%, whatever it is. But be prepared. Be prepared to differentiate why you're worth the 3 or whatever you want to charge. For me, I'll just share what I do is I set up, I don't want to dictate what they pay me. I just tell them it's totally up to what your goals are, right? So if they just want me to come in and take photos with a camera phone and just throw it on the MLS, sure, I'll do it for whatever, right? But realistically, I set up parameters, whether it's 2.5, 3, or 3.5, right? And I tell them, like, with the 2.5, this is what you get, right? You get the photography and you get it thrown on the MLS and your communication plan is X, Y, and Z, okay? At 3%, you get this, that, this, plus video or Matterport or whatever you want to pitch, right? At 3.5%, then we'll do X, Y, and Z plus staging, or whatever you want to do. But that way they could choose, right? You don't just say whatever and they just negotiate back. You choose. Do you want the 2.5 basic plan? Do you want the 3 upgraded plan? Or do you want the 3.5 luxury plan? Which one is it? Right? You'd be okay with any of those 3, ideally 3.5, but that's how I go about the commission question, because it always comes up. And if they ask for a discount, it's best to always just say no. Just nip it in the bud, and tell them why, because it costs money to be a listing agent. It costs money and time, right? Because you're not just throwing it up on the MLS. You're setting campaign ads. You're paying for that. You're using time to network and pitch the property all these brokers open. So, and share that this is what your expectation is. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna report back X, Y, and Z. Is that something that you're looking for in the agent that you choose to hire? Fantastic. Let's go ahead and sign right now. Right. So the key, again, thank God the listing agreement's not as long as the RPA, right? It's actually quite short. So nail that down, nail down the pricing, nail down your value play, okay? Because again, you're there 30 minutes, they've already chosen you. If you talk too much, you're out of it, okay? Just don't talk yourself out of it. Go for the close. Have the RPA or the RLA ready, highlight all the sections that they need to initial and sign. And that way it's really simple and straightforward, that you just fill out the price, how long the term is, and the commission. Cool. So the goal again is to set enough time. Go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, I just had a question. I haven't done any, so this might just be like an amateur question, but when it comes to the commission on that, the contract that you're setting up with them, that's going to recognize the commission percentage that you take in, as well as what would also be paid out to the buyer's agent as well.
So I'm glad you brought up that question. And this is sometimes, like, especially if they're first time selling a home, it's our responsibility to educate them on how those percentages work, right? So, okay, fantastic. You chose the 3%. Fantastic. 3%, 1% is going to go to marketing, yada, yada, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then have that separate discussion. Okay, fantastic. Now, when you bought your home, did you use an agent? Ask them, right? Fantastic. Well, that agent was cooperating with the listing agent, and that's what a co-op fee is. Have that discussion with them, and then you add the two numbers together. Let's say you do 3 and 2.5 for the co-op, 5.5, right? So on the listing agreement, it's going to ask for the total commission. And then there's a second piece that says the co-op, and you could put whatever the buyer's agent's going to get.
And for those of you that need to know, I dropped the YouTube RLA on the contract series. If you haven't attended yet, you can watch that about how to fill it out and make sure it's done right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So typically when you're there, when I'm there, it's to talk about pricing, to talk about commission, and getting it signed. I honestly feel like in my mind, if I'm already there, they've already decided to hire me. They saw my testimonials, they saw pictures of me, they saw everything, they saw the whole package. So all I'm there is to talk about price, commission, getting it signed. Okay. Again, this only all works if you make your calls though, guys.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
So you actually bring a hard copy. You don't do the DocuSign to the listing agreement or listing presentation.
I do hard copy.
Okay.
Yeah, I do a hard copy and I scan it. But hey, I'm kind of older amongst the crowd, right? Like in between. So if you want to do a digital format, you can. I've done it in the past, and it just, if I didn't have like a solid Wi-Fi connection or something, I just wanted variables out. Again, my whole key is to make it efficient for 30 minutes. I want to go through our points, agree, come to an agreement, sign, and get out of there, set up when the photographer is going to be there.
Right, and it's kind of a little more personable too, right? For the most part.
Yeah, it is. It is. Again, if we're doing this whole thing virtually anyways, then right. If we're doing the whole thing virtually, I'm scheduling a Zoom call just to go over any contracts. Yeah. So try to budget at least like 5-10 minutes towards the end to go over any questions they have on the listing agreement.
So if you're doing this virtually, how do you ask them to, you want to see the house, do you ask them to hold up their computer and walk around the house and so you can see it?
Yeah, so again, the listing appointments I've had virtually, no one used a desktop. I don't know if anyone uses a desktop computer anymore, honestly. Most of them are on Surface Pros or iPads or iPad Pro or MacBooks or a phone. So it's really easy for them just to walk around with their tablets.
So you do the walkthrough, walk around the house, take some. And what do you do like if they want to talk a lot? Some people like to talk a lot. How do you manage that?
Yeah. So I'll set up a second appointment for, or a follow-up phone call for that. Like, oh, that's fantastic. Oh my God, it sounds like there's so much cool things that you got going on. You know, I respect your time. Let's go ahead and just knock this out, these last couple of points, and we can get back to that. You know, and if by the time we talk about something else, their mind's already in. If they like to talk, their mind's already on something else once we change the subject.
And you just say that same line over and over. Let's say they do it 5-6 times.
Go to scripts practice. I'm sure you do, but there's different ways. You know, you could segue, reframe, and just move the conversation forward. Yeah. Great question. And again, those are tools that you guys, I wish I was in your shoes, honestly, because you have an amazing coaching staff and team leader to help you with that. When I got started, we didn't have daily scripts practice. We didn't have objection handlers or any of that. So I was just thrown out there, and maybe that's why my appointments were an hour and a half long, because I was going, I don't know. Let me get back to you. When easily it's that you could reframe it into another question now, right? So yeah, I think you guys have some awesome tools at your disposal to be like some rock star agents out there. But it requires you to pick up the phone call. Pick up the phone. What else is there? I
Did you
didn't look
review
at
where you're finding sellers today?
Yeah. So this is the power of listings, right? It's the leverage piece. So I'd say almost every listing of mine, I've had at least 2 or 3 business pieces coming out of it. Usually a listing would lead to a referral for another listing, and then just domino effects. So let me think. I had one buyer this year who bought a house. Neighbor across the street is doing renovation. He goes across the street. And this is why it's important to stay in touch with your buyers and all your clients and friends. He goes across the street to meet these guys. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, we're doing some renovations, doing the flooring so we could sell the house. And they're like, oh, wow, you're selling? You should really talk to my friend Mike. He's a fantastic agent. He sold me this house like a couple months ago. Set me up with the appointment. Sure enough, I'm the only one that they're going to interview. And they said, you know, based on what your friend told me and that you know this market, then, you know, we'd love to work with you. So that was the easy one. Okay. The other one was calling expired. Calling expired. And, you know, it's just an old expired, didn't work out. It was from like last year. And I actually competed with another, they interviewed 2. They actually, kudos to our team, our office, because they actually got another call from another one of our agents. Okay. So they interviewed this other agent, and the other agent, they'll remain nameless, didn't convince them to sign, or didn't ask them enough, or portray their value, or differentiate themselves. Okay. So she calls me back, and this is crazy, right? I left a message like a month or 2 ago. I didn't even get a chance to speak with her. I said, hey, I have, you know, my name is Mike. I got a client actually desperately looking to buy a home here in Chula Vista. I saw that you were listed at one point. Just wanted to see if, you know, if you were still interested in selling down the road. Never got a call back. 2 months later, she calls me back. Hey, you probably don't remember me, but I got your message and I'd like to talk to you about selling my home. So fantastic. We met up, interviewed, and they were like, oh my God, you're from Keller Williams Metro. Do you know X, Y, and Z? I was like, yeah, absolutely. He's a great guy. And they're like, yeah, I interviewed him, but I wanted to get your thoughts. I was like, oh, okay, fantastic. I didn't say anything bad, you know. That's another key thing is when you go on these listing appointments and you're competing with other agents, don't talk bad about the other agent, because more than likely you're going to run across them again. Okay. And you want to have a good working relationship. So that's how I got, you know, I'm just literally calling for expireds, guys. Like if I don't have a listing, I'm just calling. And the script's not great. I'm not great at it, but it's just the fact that I'm doing it is already 99% of it. Okay. What else? What other listings have I had this year? Sphere. That's a good one. So I think you guys already had a class with Chris Spade about social media and all that, right? Huge platform, guys. Leverage that. So this is I got a listing from following my Sphere on Facebook. One of them's like, oh my gosh, I'm due for another baby, and they have a smaller condo. So I just reached out. I'm like, oh my God, congratulations. You know, what are you guys gonna do? That you guys are gonna be tight on space. Not assuming that they're gonna move. I'm just gonna say they're tight on space. And sure enough, they reached back and they're like, yeah, well, that's funny you asked that, because you know we had intentions to reach out to you to talk about listing our home and moving. So again, that would only happen, right, if I was following social media, keeping an eye on people, and then commenting on these triggering events is what I call them. You guys know what the triggering events are? Or have an idea?
Marriage, divorce, birth.
Death.
Oh, death.
Death is another.
Parents moving into not a retirement community, but something like that.
Retirement. Yep. I have one of those right now. Yeah.
Job
So
relocation.
you just got to keep in mind like what makes people move, right? Why would they need to sell their house? It's not a pleasant experience. That's another thing. Make sure you solidify that your job is not just to sell their house, but to make it a pleasant experience. It is not pleasant to sell your home by any means. Okay, you have random people coming through your home. You have to be on the ready to be on the move just like that. So assure them that you're going to do everything that you can to make it a pleasant experience and that it's short. Because I have one where we're at 3 months of showings and it's like, it's vacant, but still, if it wasn't vacant, oh my God, I can't imagine, right? I can't imagine what they'd be going through. Let's see, anything else? Questions, guys?
The question is, where do you get the numbers for expired and Fsbos?
So you guys, again, you're so lucky to be part of this office at this time. I wish I had this in my first few years. My Plus Leads is where I get them. I'm sure some of you guys use the same, right? My Plus Leads. Yeah. So I go through that. I used to call the newly expireds, but I don't do that anymore because it was just, for me, I just wanted to be less stressful. And so I focus on, I'm just telling my secret. It's not a secret because we're all doing the same thing, but I call like 6 months to a year old. That's what I focus on. Because usually you want to catch them at 6 months, because if they didn't sell, they might have leased it out. And guess what? That lease term's coming to an end in a couple of months, and you want to get that listing signed before that happens.
And then how do you structure your days to get maximum results? And yes, Francis, we have My Plus Leads at the office. I'm not sure how to access that, but Stephen would know.
You're talking about my schedule?
Yes.
Yeah. So every morning is the same for me. I wake up at 6, do my thing. So some people frown upon what I do, but at 6 I hop up and start checking emails before I do anything else. So
Why so late?
Huh? Why so late?
Yeah.
I don't go to the gym. I don't do any of that. So I apologize for everyone. I'm not a good example. It's definitely one of my personal goals for sure, is to get back in shape and start eating right. But my day starts at 7, and then take care of the kids, get everyone else situated, and then by 9 o'clock I'm on the phones every single day, 9 o'clock. And from 9 to 11, I'm basically either doing lead generation or lead follow-up, and I'll break it up that way. It's been working well. Just stay away from the distractions. Like I mentioned, social media is a cool outlet, but I don't ever use that during that time frame because you could easily get lost in that world. So just focus on making your calls, doing your follow-ups from 9 to 11. That's what works for me. Because if I plan to do it later in the day, something will come up. Something definitely will come up, whether it's showings or something, or appointments already, it will come up and ruin the rest of the day. Okay, so that morning is yours. You can control it. Then I'll grab some food at 11 or 12, and then 1 and 3 is typically with clients. And then from 5 to 8, it's kind of like the one last try for those folks who aren't morning people. Okay, so there is some, if you guys don't mind doing the dials at like 6, 7 o'clock at night, there is some value there. At least I still think there's value there, even amongst COVID, because people are still working. They're working remotely from home. So, and at 6, they're done with work and they're able to take phone calls and things like that. So if you want to know yeah.
Yesterday, they learned about the big why, the driving force. What's yours?
I'm glad you asked that. So my big why at first was always just like, oh, take care of my family. They don't have to go through experiences I went through as a kid. But do you guys do you guys who know who Zig Ziglar is?
Yes.
Yeah, motivational speaker. Yeah. So there's, his story about going to the market, and buying groceries, and his wife bought stockings because she had ripped hers, right? They went to the checkout line to pay for all this stuff, and they don't have enough money to pay for their groceries. So the wife's like, it's okay, I'll just wear these ripped stockings, I'll just return these and we could buy our groceries. That story resonated a lot to me because I just cannot do that to my wife or my girls. Like we went through times where we're living off one income, and I'm like saying we gotta shut down our Amazon account. We gotta be careful of what we buy, be careful of when to go out and have dinner. Buying things always on sale, right? So a lot of stuff resonated with me because there's a lot of sacrifice, and I don't want to hurt my kids, hurt my wife like that if I have the time in the day to make a phone call. Okay, so my parents came up broke. They're refugees from Southeast Asia. They're Chinese immigrants that were in Vietnam. They left during the war, so they came here as refugees with nothing. So I grew up with nothing. Like my dad worked 3 jobs as like a butcher and a chef at a Chinese restaurant, and I grew up with nothing. I grew up with like eating white rice and cabbage soup nearly every single day. I hated it to the point where I would just starve myself and I just flush it down the toilet because I was just so sick of it, right? And I don't want my kids to go through that experience. So these moments and images and thoughts in my head, that's what keeps me going. So yeah.
If none of you don't have tears in your eyes like I do, that's really what a big why is about. It's going to move you so much that it's the driving force to do what you're going to do when you don't want to do it at the very highest level.
Yeah. Like again, your big whys could change, right? Like in the very first year I did 3 deals, which is this is where I was struggling. Second year I did 8 deals with the big why as like taking care of my family. But it wasn't until like I really internalized it and understand like the consequences of not doing what I am here to do. What does that mean to the people that I love? And at that point, that shifted in me, right? Instead of wasting time to use it efficiently, because we all have the same amount of time. It's just how efficient are you with it? And then, from 8 deals a year to doing 2 to 3 every single month is life-changing for us. Now we have different challenges, but still, it's good to understand your big why and keep yourself motivated. It's non-negotiable.
That was the most moving, heart-moving why I've ever heard. Thank you, Mike.
And you just have to give it some thought, right? What's important to you? Like it's beyond money. It's beyond money. It's beyond anything material. It's really about the time that you have. Your one life, your one body, your one soul. So what's important to you? And everything else is nothing compared to that.
You're getting a lot of thanks in the chat bar.
Oh, thank you guys.
Thank you.
So as we wrap this up, what are some of the things that, does anybody have any more questions then before we wrap it up then? And then I'll ask for some ahas.
I have a question.
Okay.
Being just kind of like new to the Fsbos and expired, I maybe like a month or two ago called a expired, and they had rented the house out, and I didn't know how to overcome that objection, so I kind of just froze and then we hung up. And then I like that you had said get in around the 6-month mark, because that's how you want to get the listing signed before the lease can renew or before it ends. How do you go about that conversation? Like, how does that conversation sound?
Yeah, so conversation goes it goes back to why they want to sell in the first place. Because I think renting it out usually is like the backup plan. It's like they were so fed up with the experience that it didn't sell that, you know what, I've already moved out, or the tenant's already moved out. I'm just going to sell it as a backup plan. So you go back to why they're looking to sell. And I'll ask them, well, are you trying to rent this out forever then? You didn't try to rent it out the first time, you try to sell it. Tell me about that. Right? And then having a tenant is not the most pleasant experience for a landlord as well, especially if it's done by themselves and not through property management. So I always offer like, hey, it's something that I specialize in, but I work really well with tenants when we list properties. It's something that I'll burden the responsibility with, that I'll be in contact with them to schedule showings and making sure their needs are met. And even if they need help finding a new home, I'm there to help them as well. Is that something that you think beneficial to you and your tenants? No other agent's going to do that. Help the tenant find another place. And guess what? That tenant might become a buyer too. Right?
Yeah.
So, and you want to be ahead of it, because by the time it's like near 9, 10, 11 months into their lease, more than likely the seller now is thinking about, oh, what am I going to have to do about this? And then they're going to be looking for an agent. Wouldn't it be better that if you already reached out before they even had that thought?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a question as well.
Go ahead, Sarah.
And I should have asked this, the other Sarah. I should have asked this a little bit before, but you had talked about going out and being out in the field and previewing properties and seeing things, just making yourself out and about. But so it's okay to go and go visit homes without clients or without a specified buyer in hand. And then how does that work right now with with COVID? You still would do like a PED even though you don't have a client, or how exactly do you go about that?
You still do a PED for yourself. I love it when agents ask me, hey, can I come preview your property? Because at least they're being proactive, and they could pitch my listing to one of their potential buyers, right? So not only that it's good for them to educate themselves on the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So like if you're going to preview, fantastic opportunity to go on Facebook Live, talk about that you're at this listing, previewing it, ask some questions, get engagement, check that box. Now you have an opportunity to learn about what type of homes are on the market. Check that box. Now you're a skilled, knowledgeable realtor who's actually out there, not just looking at MLS photos. Check that box. And it's an opportunity to be out and about and possibly run into more leads like a neighbor or something.
I see. That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Yeah,
All right.
the Facebook Live thing is really, really cool. It's really important. I just want to go back to it real quick before I let you guys go. Doing the virtual open houses, that got me another listing as well, because it was referred to someone else. They're like, wow, you should really check out what Mike's doing in this COVID world. He's going online with all his listings through these virtual open houses. You should check it out. So I got a call from my old coworker's new coworker's mom, because they just love the idea that we're being cutting edge, being forward thinking. addressing concerns in this environment and still making things happen, right? And it's something they can watch. It's like, you know, instant Bravo TV for them, right? So put it out there, even if it's not your listing, because I think the videos are of a lot of value.
And is that just something you would do with your iPhone, or do you take something a little bit more professional for the image?
Yeah, I just have an iPhone and I bought a gimbal, and that's all I did. But for the
Gimbal's
longest time,
from bouncing?
well, the iPhone doesn't really bounce that much. You just have to practice what I call the ninja walk. As long as you master the ninja walk, you're good. But the gimbal is just that extra added.
And take off our high heels. Yeah.
And you know, you can always find a listing that has a Matterport and just do it from your office or from home. That's what I love doing. I like doing that more than being live at the property to do the Facebook stuff, because I get to control the environment. Yeah. Anyone else?
Any ahas then left? And Robert, did we get your question answered from earlier?
He's muted.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Bob. I got it.
All right. So give me 3 ahas today you guys are going to walk away with and implement.
I have one. It's use that, since a lot of people are putting up 3D videos on the MLS, I can record that with a Zoom and then just put that on my Facebook.
Yep.
Instead of having to go buy the actual Matterport myself and try to do everything by myself.
Yep.
Any more?
Yeah, for me, the like levels of commission was really helpful, because I've already come across that, and I was kind of like, well, this is what I do, but now I can say, you know, the higher the percentage, the more I'm going to be doing for you. So it gives me a little leverage to talk about that.
Yeah, they're either going to pick the 2.5 or the 3, you know, but at least you won't have that discussion of, will you do it for 1%?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
All right. I have dropped Mike's email address into the chat bar, so be sure and send him an email of thanks and gratitude for taking his time today and sharing his wisdom and knowledge on winning with sellers. We want to thank Mike for taking his time. I know this is time out of your day, your lead gen, so you're probably going to be calling those Fsbos expired from 5 to 8 tonight.
It's a good time, guys. I mean, just get over it. It's actually a good time to call them. Yeah.
And so tomorrow we're going to start at the same time at 10 o'clock with Coach's Corner, and we're going to talk about lead generation finding business. And it's going to be led by Vinny Enriquez, one of our launch coaches. And Vinny was Rookie of the Year, and he's consistently one of our top 5, if not 10 agents in our office each and every year. So we'll look forward to getting that going tomorrow. And if there's no further questions, you all make it a great day. All right. Glad to have you guys here. And look for that class with Eric Harris on Friendster and Paul on
MySpace.
MySpace. Yeah, MySpace. Bye, guys.